Okay guys, so welcome along this afternoon. We've got Paul Bingham is going to talk to us on behalf of Shuttle Rock, and I'll let him introduce the company and talk to us about their social media use with their staff, pluses, minuses, what their policies are. And we've got Tony Marriott, who's from Allied Pickfords, who's going to talk to us about his experience of the impact of social media on productivity at his workplace. Okay, Paul, welcome.
Cool, kia ora koutou. So I thought it might be more useful to speak with just a bit more of on a general basis. So I'm a founder of a company called Shuttle Rock, which is an internet content marketing platform. We basically integrate with a lot of social media channels. But I'm also a director of Air New Zealand. So as I got your email, I thought I might just use a couple of examples from a larger organisation as well. And also I'm part of a small company called, or a smaller company called Black Cat Cruises, sort of 30 to 50 staff. Ngāi Tahu, which is about 500 to 1,000 staff. Air New Zealand is 10, 11,000 staff. Shuttle Rock, we're currently 35. So basically we're 5 years old. We have offices in Tokyo, New York, Los Angeles, Christchurch, Sydney, and Auckland, of course. So the Shuttle Rock platform is kind of a way to get social content, so basically photos and videos, off your phones and into a company's marketing channels, if that makes sense. So let's say, for instance, that you went dolphin swimming today in Akaroa and you posted a photo, or you uploaded a photo into Instagram, hashtagged Black Cat Cruises or Akaroa or whatever. The Shuttle Rock system will find that, and it might not be Instagram, could be Facebook, YouTube, all the different social channels. It'll find it and it'll bring it into our sort of central system. It'll tag it, and we'll have that photo either on the Black Cat website later on today, or within a Facebook ad. So basically we're using social media sort of to make the marketing function just a lot more efficient, because the way to market these days is to let customers tell the story as opposed to you, the brand. So you're far more likely to believe a user or a customer with user-generated content than you are if we put out a traditional, just like a big ad spend. So it's using customers to tell a story. So sort of back to your productivity, what we've found, and we're partnering with Facebook, so we're we're the only company in the Southern Hemisphere that we can tell that have got a Facebook badge, which is sort of gets you inside the inner circle of Facebook. We've been up to Silicon Valley a number of times and sort of get inside the what's going on in Facebook. But yeah, so we're basically working really closely with them to improve the efficiency of advertising. So you guys all be on Facebook, Snapchat. In fact, there's 4 billion photos uploaded to the internet every single day, if you believe that. A lot of them are in Snapchat and in sort of closed groups, but it's a really good opportunity for brands to use it in their marketing. So that's what we do. We're solving a problem around creativity. So yeah, I think that probably explains a little bit about how we're working with brands, everyone from Lady Gaga to Porsche, Fonterra to Auckland Tourism. We work right across a whole lot of different sectors and verticals. 35 staff, how staff use social media at your company. So probably what you're more sort of looking for is sort of the larger companies. So I might just talk briefly about Air New Zealand, and I just went in yesterday and I won't get into too much detail because I notice on the bottom of it says it's internal use only. So you can just keep this reasonably quiet. There's nothing too sensitive in here. But obviously with a company like Air New Zealand, you've got 10,000 people, and there are there is a policy. So this is a 6 or 8 page thing that you would get the day you started Air New Zealand. You would have an understanding as to how you are able to use social media. So this is some of the negative parts, I guess. So I don't know if you remember, about a year ago, there was a whole, you might not have seen it, it was in traditional news channels. It was probably on Facebook. But one of our cabin crew uploaded a photo. I'm pretty sure they uploaded it into Snapchat. Someone screenshotted it, put it into a Facebook group, and then the New Zealand Herald got hold of it. And basically it was a cabin crew in full uniform, and she was sort of spitting into a glass, and the caption was, "I wish I could spit on my customers like this," which is obviously not a good look for a brand. So you sort of see some of the negatives that you can get. So I guess she didn't read the policy, which effectively says do no harm. So although we don't tell, we tell people within this policy that it's okay to be on social media, it's okay to talk about in general terms your life and your business. You're not obviously supposed to bring the brand into disrepute. That's a real bad look. You're also, in that instance, you're not allowed to talk about what customers. So if we carried Reese Witherspoon or Tom Cruise, I don't know if we did or not, but you're definitely not allowed to talk about that in any forum, let alone social media. So that's kind of some of the negatives. There was another instance that we had. Actually, I think it was on the same. It was all part of the same thing. It was a pilot and a blow-up doll in a cockpit. Real bad look. So those people no longer with the company. So sort of, I suppose the positive side, so if you think about Air New Zealand, 10,000 people, if each of them have 100 friends, followers, you can get a message amplified to quite a high degree, and it goes back to user-generated content. So say in New Zealand, I don't know, say they launched, say we just won a big award recently. We put that out onto our social channels, and if your staff are then amplifying that to all their networks, 10,000 people that can get you to 1 million sets of eyeballs in theory. So it's quite a nice positive way that we're using social media. And then I suppose the only other way, I don't know if you call it social media or not, is sort of the whole collaboration online. So at Shuttle Rock we use a number of different sort of collaboration platforms. I'm not sure if you're aware of them, but you basically go online. Instead of sending things via email, you can go into sort of like a central portal. The one we use is called Slack. There's another one called Trello. These are like massive billion-dollar startups that didn't even exist a few years ago, but they allow staff to communicate with each other, and it's kind of ground up. By that I mean it's the actual staff doing the communicating instead of the managers top down. So it's much more sort of inclusive, and you have this whole engagement collaboration play going on. And Facebook for Work is basically Facebook are sort of copying all the best stuff from everybody else. So Facebook for Work is how they're going to play it. It's still playing out, that one. So that's policies.
How does Facebook for work, Paul?
Facebook for Work?
Yeah.
It's basically it's an online sort of collaboration within the Facebook platform. So you log in a normal way, and you'll see all of your work employees in there. There's a sort of a wall, so they don't get to see all your personal stuff. But Facebook's objective is just to get you coming back again and again to the app. Yeah, you go in there and you can collaborate. You can share photos, start topics. It's a little bit like an intranet, but it's within that Facebook space. I haven't heard too much. They launched it maybe 6 months ago. It's sort of like a LinkedIn copy, sort of addressing the work space thing, and I haven't really heard too much about it recently, but they normally do things pretty awesome. So that's just another positive way of using it, I suppose. So that's probably, is that 10 minutes? Is that about?
Yeah.
Gives a bit of an overview.
Yep.
Any questions?
Anybody got any questions about? So, do you think you'd use it so openly if you couldn't trust your staff? Do you think trusting staff is, with those collaborative tools is important?
Yeah,
Would
it's
you go
an
there
interesting
if you
one.
couldn't trust them?
To me, in all the businesses that I'm in, like say, take for example the cruise company. We've got 50 staff. There's none of them that I don't trust.
Yeah.
They're out there in the middle of the night carrying people around on boats, or you've got pilots in aircraft, or even truck drivers you mentioned before. If I was the owner, I mean, you'd probably talk about this, but I trust all my staff to be doing the right thing. This is just an extension of that. If I don't trust them to get into one of my boats or give an amazing customer experience, then they shouldn't be here. And so this, to me is just an extension. And by and large, you take in New Zealand, with the odd exception, it works pretty well. People are pretty tuned into it. They know how it can go wrong quickly, basically. Yeah.
So my question is, like, aren't you in a way taking Facebook marketing's business? How does that work?
Oh, with Shutterrock?
Yeah, with Shutterrock, because aren't you doing exactly what Facebook are wanting to do? Well, aren't you doing exactly what Facebook is offering?
Yep.
But then how do you work with Facebook? Why are they letting you work with them if you're taking their business?
Yeah. So what we do, so you know how you're in your feed, your news feed,
Yeah.
you'll see the odd ad from time to time. Do you see ads?
Yeah.
You know what, yeah, and you can see the difference.
Yeah.
And that, you'll probably have seen, like 5 years ago, there was no ads. So what Facebook have said is they want to create what they said is enjoyable advertising. Because if you see advertising that's irrelevant and just pisses you off, you'll go into the app less and less. So they've got this thing called enjoyable advertising, which is like a contradiction in terms normally. Normally when you watch an ad, it's like, I just want to fast forward it. So an enjoyable ad is something that's relevant to you specifically, and then you don't want to be fatigued. So you don't want to see the same piece of creative more than once. They call it ad fatigue. So what we do is we're kind of making that ad more targeted to you, your interests, and we're replacing the photo within the ad. So you'll never see the same ad twice. You might see the same company wanting to communicate with you, but if they're using Shutterrock, you won't see the same ad again and again. So it's kind of a partnership. They call it the ecosystem. So we're kind of working pretty closely with them because we kind of solve a problem. Facebook's problem is how do we create more enjoyable ads? And they're like, us and some other companies are like, well, you could help with this creative issue. I don't know if does that make sense?
Yeah. So if Shutterrock wanted to advertise a company,
Yep.
would that company only get advertised once? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, we would just show one ad. So say it was Black Cat advertising to you in Facebook, we would show you maybe an ad every 3 or 4 days, but it would be a completely different photo or video. So you don't get fatigued, oh damn, I've already seen this thing. Like your newsfeed, you want new stuff. So sort of we're making that a little bit more efficient. So Shutterrock's just almost like it's the tech platform that joins the two together. So, I mean, we actually advertise ourselves, Shutterrock, but our main revenue stream is where we charge companies to use our software to help them advertise on Facebook more efficiently. It's pretty, I mean, we won the Global Facebook Innovation Award last year, so yeah, it's quite new, and we're just, in fact, they just gave us a name, this whole thing that we're in. We spent 5 years without we're not like accounting software or storage software. They're calling us a creative platform. But anyway, probably a bit off the topic, but yeah, it does help with the productivity of advertising. So when I sat down, I mean, none of you guys watch TV anymore, but you know, we watch TV and you'll see an ad that's completely irrelevant. It's the old shotgun. So I might see something for
Like a Hyundai ad.
Hyundai or like
after
a
a
funeral.
or something like that.
It's just so, it's just the traditional way, whereas with Facebook you can get quite pinpoint, and the Facebook targeting. So you know, we can literally target visitors to Christchurch aged 18 to 25 with a dolphin swimming message today. So it's really granular. They call it granular, quite targeted.
And Server is the company owner, so you'll quite often find this in business. There'll be a XYZ holding company that owns several brands. So the brand that we go to market with out in the general market is Allied Pigfords. Company is 350 years old, so it started in the UK as Pigfords. They used to be horse and cart, delivering goods around the UK, evolved over 350 odd years. To now around about 8,000 staff worldwide and about 40, I always get this wrong, 80 countries, about 80 countries around the world. So quite a big company worldwide. New Zealand, around 200 staff and 11 branches. So what we do is we move stuff. We move people's stuff when you're moving from house to house. So pretty much everyone in this room, with the exception of the older guys, probably won't use us in the next 10 to 15 years. What we find is at your age through to 30, you'll do it yourselves. When you're moving from school and leaving university and going to your first job, generally you're carrying about 2 suitcases and you don't need us. So our target audience is generally women aged 35 to 65. So when you start talking about social media with us, most in our industry go, what the hell is that? And it is quite new. It is still in its infancy. So Facebook, for example, you won't find Allied Pickfords New Zealand on Facebook. Having said that, I checked that before I came, and one of our ex-staff members in Christchurch started up a Facebook page called Allied Pickfords Christchurch. So we have to try and track that person down and say, take it down, please. So one of the perils of Facebook is it's very easy for any one of us here to go and start up a Facebook page called anything. You could start up St Andrews College Old Boys and Girls Association, and it's going to take a lot of effort by a lot of people to try and get you to stop doing that. So one of the pitfalls of these sorts of things is that ownership becomes a bit blurry about whose page it is. One of the other things that we noticed very early on is that some in our industry got very enthusiastic about putting up Facebook pages, and within a year they got bored of it and they stopped posting. But their customers didn't stop posting. And when you go onto their pages, you go on and you see stuff that's 4 years old since the companies, but there's 4 years of complaints from clients going, you broke all my stuff, you dented it, you damaged it, I don't like you, never use this company. And there is literally Facebook pages, which I can send to Steve, where there is a whole row of really bad comments. So we were going, whoa, this is terrible. You know, we don't want to start this unless we can actually keep it up. So what we've concluded is that we have to basically employ resources to keep filling the content up. Because the minute your last post is 6 months old, you're irrelevant. Why have you got a Facebook page if you're not updating it all the time? So from a customer's point of view, you know, there's some dangers there. The other part to it is too that you have to address those issues quite quickly. You have to have somebody respond to it saying, very sorry about that, I'll give you a call, do you want to private message me, and try and take it offline. Because that is hurting your brand. When people are looking up and don't know who you are, and they look up your Facebook page and see pages of complaints, they're not going to ring you. So that's the other side of social media. We too have policies with staff. So as you can imagine, we're in a very delicate situation when we're moving people. Imagine if your parents are moving house today and there is our employees in your bedroom packing up your stuff and they start taking photos in your room. The last thing you want to see is your private stuff, your room, your house being blasted across how many Facebook pages, and suddenly we have clients ringing us saying, your guys are in my house and they've just posted this stuff. So we have to be very conscious of that. So we take a very conservative view about don't get involved in this stuff. Please don't post stuff about on Facebook that relates to work. One of our more adventurous guys in Wellington was a big boy. He was a big island boy. He posted a photo of himself with a big double fridge on his back walking up a hill. Now he thought that was hilarious, but on Facebook when you see somebody's goods being carried, you kind of want to know that your fridge has been handled well, not with somebody showing off, taking a photo and posting it. So these are the sorts of things that we've struggled with over the years. So we certainly have got privacy issues around, you know, do not discuss, do not post, do not do all that stuff. And as we don't have a social media presence much ourselves, we are starting to get into that space where we're going to say, well, when we do start, this is what we're going to do. So one of the things that I have seen is that there are Facebook pages where clients can post comments, and there appears to be places where you can actually hide those comments or not actually allow them. The other thing is, how do we get our clients if we're not on these areas? And that's been an interesting journey for us in a very short period of time. So when I first started back in 2007, we spent over $100,000 a year with a company called the Yellow Pages. Now, the Yellow Pages is still in existence, just give it 5 years, they probably won't. That seems to be the general consensus, is they'll be gone. So from $100,000 a year to about $3,000 last year, we've now moved all of our spend over to a gentleman in the States called Mr. Google, and Mr. Google now fleeces us for over $120,000 a year and growing. So for us to be able to attract clients, when you type in furniture moving companies, you kind of want to be the first one on that list where it comes up, and that's become a whole minefield of trying to track that and what is a good website, how does Google rate you. There's a whole black science around getting you up on that listing page, because believe you me, if you're not on page 1 and you're not in those first half dozen search fields, you're gone. And it's very interesting for us. We've seen companies in Auckland, for example, which is 2 trucks and about 10 staff, ranking above all the major removal companies. And that's because they've got a clever guy who's fiddling the Google spiders, whatever you call it nowadays, and he's getting their listing right up onto page 1, position 3. So that's our big challenge at the moment, is trying to get and stay on there. The other thing that's changed too is that Google used to have, or still have, a ranking. So you can go on and give somebody a Google review. I think you give them out of 5, is it? Yeah, so out of 5, how did you find this company? Now, used to get pretty much in our industry, you generally disappoint about 10% of the people. But those 10% love Google and they love telling people about it. So you can get a ranking. It used to be that the average removal company would be somewhere between 2.5 and 3.5 is their average score. Now Google have said if you don't rank high in your ratings, we're going to drop you down even further. So now all of a sudden this whole Google rankings has become a real issue for us. So I think that's about my 5 minutes, is it, Steve?
Yeah, keep going.
Keep going?
Yeah. We've
Okay.
got about 10 minutes.
Positives. Well, again, that can be a positive, is trying to encourage your clients to give you good rankings. Now, I see Facebook also have a ranking system. I'm not sure how that impacts on anything other than what people will perceive you. But again, if you drill down on those, some that you can see, some pretty nasty comments. And I was watching one of our competitors' rankings drop dramatically because they've only had 4. And one of them was an ex-staff member who posted, I went round to these people to get a reference and they couldn't remember me. So he gave them a 1 out of 5, and that dropped their rankings dramatically, just bang, one ex-staff member. So again, you're not always in control of this stuff, so you've got to be very careful about what's being let out and what you've checked on the boxes as to what you want displayed. So caution there. I'm not sure what else have we got. Staff we've sort of covered. Where's it going? For us, unfortunately, until somebody replaces Google, and I think Facebook may be trying to look for that space, is until we stop asking Google questions and start asking some other company or companies, we're kind of locked into this. Now, you can imagine this is a small company in the bottom end of the world spending $100 and something thousand a year with Google. Can you imagine the billions of dollars that are pouring into their account every day by big companies? And the interesting area about that is that there's a section of Google that's called pay per click. So those who have done a bit of IT stuff will probably know what that's about. But those first 3, when you type into Google, you get first 3 that get served up onto you. Generally, a company's paid to be in that position. So there's a little area that you go into and behind your Google account which says pay per click, bid. So you can bid for, if you're in a business like us, Moving Companies Christchurch, we'll bid $8 to get you to click on our ad. The minute you click on, you're on our web page. If you get off within 2 to 3 seconds, you don't pay. But if you stay on that for more than 2 to 3 seconds, you just cost that company, in some cases, $8. We heard horror stories in the States and California for plumbing, like Plumbers Los Angeles, up to $300 per click. Now, can you imagine what that plumber's going to charge you, having paid you $300 to get you to come out to them? His bill's already $300. And that's if he's winning every job that he gets a click for. He's probably winning 1 in 5. So it's costing businesses thousands of dollars every day to be on that sort of area. And for us, that's where 80% of our business comes from, is people on the internet looking up and clicking on websites. So that's about all I've got. I think I've covered
Are
everything.
you guys in the top 3 in New Zealand?
Yeah, we generally rank in the top 2. So depending on what you call relocations and moving, we generally go after a lot of business moves. So when a business is moving staff around the country, that's our first choice of market. The area where it's harder is the private cash sales. So this is Mr. and Mrs. Smith moving from Christchurch to Wellington. They'll go out and get 4 quotes. So those are the people that go onto Google going furniture moving Christchurch to Wellington. And if it isn't in that first 3 or 4 that they look at, generally, as we all do, we'll scan down that going relevant, oh no, not relevant. The interesting part for us, type in some of those furniture moving, we've now got power companies outbidding furniture companies for moving house from here to here. Because the power company are also in that same space as us, where when you move house, you've got to change your, well, you don't have to, you can keep the same power company. Often people will change their power company at that point. So now we're trying to outbid power companies for our terms. And in actual fact, we have to bid for our own name. So when you type in Allied Pickfords into Google, you'll get served up 3 other removal companies because they're bidding on our name. So you can't stop them from doing that. That's just the way it is.
Hey,
yeah.
what's your policy on staff using their phones at work?
We discourage it, actively discourage it, because invariably when you've paid us to move you from point A to point B, you're pretty much paying for our labour costs. When they see 3 guys standing around looking at their phone, checking their phones, when they should be working and packing, they ring us real quick. We get a lot of grumpy comments from, your guys were on their phones all day. They didn't do any work. Every time I saw them, they were standing there staring at their Facebook page or texting their mates. So for us, we ask our guys, predominantly it is guys, but we do have a few lady packers, but most of our teams get asked, when you go to the workplace, keep your phone in your pocket. Please don't use them. Because again, you don't know whether they're picking up the phone to look at it or whether they're taking photos in your house and doing other stuff. So it's best not to be in that space where you could be accused of something.
Are they able to use, obviously at lunchtime and stuff like that? That's all good.
Absolutely. Yep. Go for your life. Do it. We're bringing in technology where they're going to have to start using tablets to enter information, and again that requires connectivity. It allows them the opportunity to be looking at other things at the same time, but again, trust comes into it. You kind of they'll self-manage that, because one thing's for sure, if 3 guys are working, doing all the work, and one guy's sitting there playing on his phone, it's going to get noticed pretty quickly. So that doesn't worry me as much as the fact that clients can start asking questions about why you're taking photos and what's going on here.
Yeah. So
Okay.
with impact on productivity and quality and all those sort of things.
Absolutely, absolutely, yep. And one of the reasons that when we issue out mobile phones, although it's fast, that option's fast disappearing, is that we don't necessarily give them a smartphone. We're still giving them the old style phones where you can text and you can use it as a phone. They can get on the internet with those old phones. It's pretty horrible in terms of an experience for them, so they tend not to bother. But the problem is now, when you go to your phone companies, you cannot get those old style phones now. They're pretty much smartphones are the only phone or the only equipment you can get.
Awesome.
All right.
Any questions?
Nope.
I think that was good.
All right.
Very
Thank you.